If you woke up broke today, you're an idiot. I tried to give you 10,000 yesterday. If you listen to me, you have 10 bands right now. I said, go to the bank, get a loan for 10,000. Put it on a parlay, you're gonna make 10,000. You pay off the debt, now you got 10 bands. The parlay hit. If you ain't tell that shit, you're dumb as fuck. Well, here we go again today.
He's absolutely right. In fact, I would even go as far as to say you should just rob the bank, then put that money on a parlay. Because apparently, rules don't apply to this guy's world. You see, the path to getting rich in sports betting is just hitting bigger wins. More parlays, more action. Now, if you have more than 2 brain cells unlike that guy, you'd know I'm kidding because that's how you actually stay broke. So how do you really make money in this game? Well, you go in the opposite direction. You get extreme. And not extreme like bet your mortgage on Saturday Night Football, or whatever this guy was saying. I mean, extreme in a way that looks straight up insane to casual bettors. And if you keep betting the way most people do, you'll never sniff profit. I know, because I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I was the idiot firing 5 NBA overs in one night, and I've also been the guy running such a tight process, I pulled almost $600 in just 1 week. So if you want to see what that kind of extreme actually looks like, keep watching. But before anything else, I noticed that most of you watching aren't subscribed to the channel yet. If you're still listening to some guy who shouts at his audience and calls them dumb, then you're just losing money. So hit that subscribe button. Because here's what nobody tells you about sports betting. Even the best bettors lose all the time. Because there's something built into the system that makes sure of it. And that's why most people never get rich betting sports. And why the books keep getting richer. Think of how casinos play roulette. You've got red and black, which means you've got a 50-50 chance, right? Wrong. Because there's that little green 0 on the board that a lot of people overlook. That's the house edge. And it's the same goes for sports betting. Except instead of green, it's called the VIG. And this is how it works. Okay, so let's say 2 teams are evenly matched. A fair line would be plus 100 on both sides, but the book sets it at negative 110. Now, if $110 comes in on both teams, the sports books pay $100 to the winner and keep $10 for themselves. That's how they print money regardless of the result. So if you're trying to win long term, you're not just beating the other bettors. You've also got to beat the VIG, which is why 97% of sports bettors keep donating to the bookies. The good news is that most people are out here firing gut feel parlays and betting like a degenerate. But the extreme ones, those who want to win, stick to discipline. That's why I created a private group. I want to bring people who are serious about getting rich in sports betting together so we can keep each other accountable and boost each other to the top. That way, we can all share daily positive EV spots like this. So if you want to be a part of the community, the link's in the description. But did you know that you can still lose 5 bets in a row and still not lose any money? It all comes down to this one concept. Let me explain. You ever see that one team that's absolute garbage but somehow keeps winning? Like they're dead last in scoring. Their quarterback throws ducks and their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. On paper, they should be 1-6, but for some reason, they're 6-1. Week 1, the opponent fumbles on the 1-yard line with 10 seconds left. The second week, they win on a double doink field goal that somehow bounces in. For some reason, there is some miracle that saves them in every game. And so the media starts hyping them and the bettors all jump on. But eventually the magic runs out. Quarterback throws 3 picks, no lucky bounce, no missed kick, and the final score is 38-3. All of a sudden, the streak's dead, and so is the hype. This idea is known as variance, which is the randomness baked into short-term results. You could be doing everything right and still hit an epic losing streak that messes with your head. That's why pros manage their bankroll in a way that variance can't destroy them. But that's not all the pros do differently. Because if you keep betting everything you like, you'll never make real money doing this. Here's what I mean. Let's say you bet 10 games a day with just a slight edge on each. The positive expected value isn't massive, but you just want action. The problem with this approach is that even if you win 6 and lose 4, you're probably not making money. Because at standard minus 110 odds, 6 wins gets you $600. But 4 losses cost you $440. That's only a $160 profit, and that's assuming you win 60%, which most people don't. Now imagine betting 10 games on a bad week. You go 4 wins to 6 losses instead, and now you're down $260. This just goes to show that high volume betting only works if you have a real edge. Without it, every extra bet is just more risk. That's why professional bettors actually bet less. And they only play their top 3 to 5 plays because quality is always greater than quantity. That's how I learned to tighten up my plays, and now my betting slips are hitting 3 times returns on a single wager. So naturally, you'd think this system takes forever to pay off and that it's boring as hell. And you'd be right, but that's the extreme part. Because while everyone else is addicted to the rush, hammering parlays, or betting half their paycheck, you're patiently waiting and watching your bankroll snowball. Because just imagine you're stacking 3 to 5% edges, bet after bet, month after month. So, what happens if you start with a $5,000 bankroll, stick to a 1% bet size, take 5 bets per day max, and only take bets with a minimum 3% edge? Well, let me tell you how the math plays out. After a year, you've made $3,000, which doesn't seem like much, but just hold on. Because after 6 years, you're profiting $10,000 a month. And after 10 years, you're practically a millionaire. Of course, things might happen along the way, like you withdraw funds or get limited by the books. But the potential is there. And if you let the math do the work, you will get rich. The thing is, the math only works if you're actually keeping score. That's why a betting tracker is a must. Without it, you'll have no idea what's making you money and what's draining you. So I built a bet tracker to keep everything in check. And if you want to try it out, you can grab right now by clicking the link in the description. And just when you think you're on the right track, you blow it all up by getting emotional. Let me explain. So, there was a game, UFC 293, Adesanya versus Strickland. Everyone around me said Izzy was a lock. One guy I knew even dumped his whole account on him at -600, bragging it was free money. But instead of Izzy outstriking his opponent like usual, Strickland knocked him down in the first round with a sharp 1-2. But my guy was still in denial. It's too early to tell, he said. This is prime Izzy. He'll get a knockout in the later round, he said. Well, let's just say that story didn't have a happy ending. Because Strickland walked Izzy down with constant pressure. Jabs and teeps all day. He wins by a dominant decision. And my guy, well, he didn't speak for the rest of the night. Now, yeah, that was a garbage bet because it was already negative EV and he was playing with pure emotion. But even if it were positive EV, going all in is still never a good idea. Because you just never know what's going to happen. Which leads us to this next point. Because at the end of the day, this game isn't about who wins. It's about whether the odds are wrong. So, let me show you what that actually looks like. Say a sportsbook offers plus 300 on a team, but you know the real odds should be closer to plus 200. Plus 300 means you only need to win 1 out of 4 times to break even. That's a 25% implied probability, but plus 200 implies a 33% chance. So if you bet plus 300, when the true odds are closer to plus 200, you're getting paid more than you should. That's a positive expected value bet. Now yeah, you're still betting on an underdog, and you're probably going to lose most of the time. But say you bet $100 on that line 10 times, and you win just 3 of them, that's $900 in winnings and $700 in losses, which means you're up $200. And this is when sportsbooks start sweating and limiting your account. Because now you're no longer donating your rent money to them every single day. And once you start to profit with sports betting, you will eventually get limited by all the big sportsbooks. So what do you do in this situation? Well, there are actually sportsbooks out there that don't ban winners. Sharp books like Pinnacle, as well as betting exchanges like Betfair, actually want sharp bettors to bet with them. The thing is that the lines are usually sharper. So if you're using a top-down betting approach and price shopping for good odds, then you won't find much opportunity. Because of this, you need to switch to a bottom-up betting approach, and this is what the real pros are doing, which means instead of reacting to the market, you're setting the prices yourself, and basically you become your own odds maker. So you'll be building models and running your own probabilities. And you only place bets when you see that the market is off. Now, I'm not going to lie, building a profitable model is hard. You're up against super nerds who are allergic to sunlight and live in their mom's basement. So you'll need to learn stats, modeling, and programming languages like Python to even stand a chance. But only 3% of sports bettors end up ahead. Why? Because they go to extremes the casual crowd thinks are insane. But that's exactly why it works. And if you want to be in the top 3%, you gotta avoid making the same beginner mistakes over and over. But if you've no idea what they are, I've broken those down in another video. So if you want to check it out, click right here.